When you said that, that made me sad. I didn't grow up like that. So it's just like, why am I, let's get feelings out of here. Let's stick to the talking points.
You can be so right, but I still can't receive it because the way it was said.
You can kind of live in a bubble with how you communicate.
We oftentimes just we listen to respond instead of listening to understand.
Yeah. And it takes longer. It takes significantly longer.
But something that I'm able to do so well with you is have hard conversations, and that absolutely has strengthened our relationship. So we were literally just in the kitchen and we were trying to decide what a good topic would be to talk about today.
Yeah.
And literally we were going down the list and then we said communication would be a good one. And why do you think communication is so important?
I think people think they're good at it. People think they know how to do it.
Until you get married.
Yes. or you get into an environment that will challenge your communication. My presumption at first was that like I'm phenomenal at communication. I know all these words. I can be as clear and concise as I want or whatever. But I think there's an aspect of like listening and interpretation and really understanding the essence of what people are saying that I kind of like, I feel like in the last 2-3 years, I kind of learned like things were going over my head.
Yeah. Because we oftentimes just we listen to respond instead of listening to understand.
Yeah.
And I feel like in our premarital, that was a really good model that honestly like was kind of like so slow, like the way they were like the tools that they gave us. But it was kind of, you know what I'm talking about? Like it was kind of just like you say your piece and then the other person responds, okay, I'm hearing you saying this, and then you repeat what you heard them saying, and then you allow that person to say yes or no, like, yes, that is what I'm saying, or no, that's actually not what I'm saying. And then the person says, can you clarify? And it's like this back and forth that honestly feels like it takes forever, but that's what listening really is. It's really trying to understand and have a clear understanding of what they're saying, because like I said, we oftentimes listen to respond because we don't actually care to truly understand what they're saying. We just want to get our bar off, essentially. And that definitely leads to like fights and issues. And I mean, we could speak to that in our own relationship, but yeah.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think like we talked about that first in premarital, but the first place that I feel like I actually utilized that and understood it was from a book called Never Split the Difference.
You talk about that book all the time.
It's such a great book, but it's so basic. It's like definitely like human psychology. So the guy who wrote the book was an ex-FBI hostage negotiator by the name of Chris Voss. And I think like one of the core things that he talked about was this idea of labeling and empathetic listening and stuff. And so I think I had always done active listening. I had always done active listening where I'm just like, oh, okay.
So what is active listening?
I think it's just like you're listening and you're responding like, yeah.
Like nodding your head, showing your engagement.
Yeah, showing your engagement. But like empathetic listening, as I sort of understood it from the book, was just you're actually talking to see things from the other person's perspective, or listening to hear and see things from the other person's perspective. And like you said, like it almost feels like an unnatural way to communicate. And it takes longer. It takes significantly longer. And you don't really, it's not about you sharing your perspective. It's like slowing down the entire conversation and clarifying until they agree to how you summarize what they said. And that's like, that requires patience that I don't think I had. So like I read the book and I kind of took it in terms of like negotiation and stuff like that, but it has like broader uses and stuff. And so I definitely hear it. There was like a big boom that we just heard.
Somebody did a lot.
Somebody just like they like revved up their motorcycle or something. Or they have a terrible car. I'm not sure which it is.
Or they like that type of stuff.
Yeah. They're like a gearhead or something. But yeah, that was the first time I heard it, was when in the context of negotiation, but it had broader uses. And as I started listening to other people when they're having like back and forths or arguments or disagreements, I would like listen closely. And I was just like, wow, like this person is totally missing the point, or even the unspoken thing. Like sometimes I also learned that skill from that. Like summarization is about the essence. And sometimes you have to hear what they're not saying in order to summarize what they're saying.
Yes.
So what you're saying is, this really hurt your feelings.
Yes.
And they may not say that.
Right. But that's what you can infer, or what you can see, even from their tone, even from like how they slump their head afterwards. They won't make eye contact with you, because communication is so much more than just words.
Yeah.
And I feel like even in our marriage, like we went through that. Like I think because men and women communicate differently. Yeah. And I remember, I don't even remember what we were talking about, but I just remember sharing with you like how, like, I need you to say it a certain way so I can receive it. Like I can't just, you can be so right, but I still can't receive it because the way it was said, because I don't feel like you have empathy, or I feel like you don't care, or I feel like you're just not really listening. You're just responding. And like, it just keeps me from really hearing.
Yeah, I tell that story a lot to people who are like couples, like people that maybe are asking for advice. And I was just like, let me throw myself under the bus in terms of just like communication and like what a skill, and the vigilance and gentleness and the heart required to communicate well. It's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it. And I remember that story. I remember it was we were talking about like budgets.
Oh, which gosh.
Is money is already.
I feel like we cried. I cried at our first budget meeting.
Yeah, and that sucked to see. And I was just like, man, we got to have this conversation. Like, we got to make progress in some way. And so there I was, like, all logic, like, these are the numbers, and this is the way that budgets work. And I've been at this a while or whatever. But then you being the great communicator you are, I think you cut through the noise of the emotions of it and just got to the core of it. Like, I think how you're communicating to me, I'm unable to receive it. And so that was like a game changer. Because you're such a great communicator, it was like a compliment sandwich when you said it. Like, it was like, Brian, you're a great communicator. You said that.
I did?
Yeah,
wow.
See, you're great. You said, Brian, you're a great communicator. And as such, you understand that you have to be able to communicate something to people in a way that they're able to receive it. And I thought that was just like really life-changing. Like, if nothing else came of that except for the fact that we're able to communicate better in our marriage, I thought that was like really good advice. And I think it's just like, it's applicable across the board.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like really powerful. But question for you.
Wait, hold that question. Cause I feel like it kind of goes back to what we were saying when you were saying like, you have to oftentimes listen to what they're not saying. So, and I think that I don't know if I said it in that conversation or a later conversation, but also like the reason for my response of just like kind of crying or like breaking down was in what I was not saying, which is like, oh man, I'm so used to personally handling my finances. I'm so used to doing it my way. Now we're married. We have to do it together. This is a lot for me. Like, you don't agree with what I'm saying. Like, and I did this. Like, I'm true to this. Like, I saved before.
Yes.
And like, just like, So oftentimes with communication too, like absolutely, like we're saying, like how you say it is important.
Yeah.
But I think also it's oftentimes just filled with a lot of emotion, and you also need to know your own self to be able to like communicate that to the other person.
Yeah.
Because like I could say, I don't know why I'm so sad. I'm just sad. And it's like, that could be true. But like you understanding your motives and the reasons behind your emotions, and like just taking a pause to like reflect, like, why was I so emotional? Like, what did that do to me? Like, Holy Spirit, help me, you know, like just understanding where you're coming from, I think will then allow you to have more language and better communication with your partner, friend, whoever.
Yeah. Just understanding the emotions behind it.
Yeah.
And I think that was like insightful for me, like, because I was in my mind, and I still feel this way, is like generally and overall, like that we're so in sync, we're on the same page in a lot of things in terms of value, vision, what we want for our life in the future. And so sometimes when we get into like these tiffs or disagreements, it's kind of shocking, but a lot of times it comes down to sometimes just the emotion or the feeling behind it.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize it at the time, like how big of a transition that would be. Like, I think I've heard someone say that, like, you at the beginning of a marriage, you're lucky if you like a person. You're lucky if you like a person, but ultimately you grow in love. And I think like in that growth of love, there's also a growth in communication, and learning each other, and overcoming whatever those barriers to communication. And at that moment, it was like an emotional.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would you say, in your experience, like what do you find to be the most challenging thing, or thing that surprises you most when it comes to communication, not only in the context of romantic or our relationship, but just in general, friends, family, strangers?
I feel like for me, something with communication is like I have a hard time expressing myself for I guess like kind of going back to what I was saying in the beginning, like if it's not overwhelmingly positive, then don't share it. Don't talk about it. Like it's not worth the issues that can happen if you are honest with your feelings. So I still struggle with that in my friendships. Not as much with you because I really feel comfortable with you and secure. Yeah. So I just can tell you anything.
Oh, wow. For better or for worse.
Yeah. But I just think that I still struggle with that idea that have truly been rooted in since childhood, and I think that it's so important to know like what your experiences that you had as a child or in your family of origin, they always talk about, really shapes like how you walk today. So I think that's probably like the biggest thing for me.
That's huge. And I think that's an important level of self-awareness. I think for communication, I have something similar, but I think I dealt with that. I navigated it in a different way, where I think I was watching Kev on stage. He had a video about the differences in how he was raised versus how he's raising his children. He said, like, when I was growing up, you couldn't have opinions.
That was I saw the video. Yeah.
And so I felt like I like going like post college, I kind of understood that, like, yeah, but I also was hyper aware of the fact that, like, I gotta get out of my head and just express things no matter how difficult. And so I was essentially emotionally bulldozing my way through difficult emotions and things to say, where it's just like, listen, I gotta say this. I gotta get this bar off, or else it's gonna like pop up in my attitude or something else. It needs to be said. And doing things that way, it made it that I would just emotionally bulldoze my way through difficult things, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily processing it, but just like, okay, I have to do this thing and check it off my list.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of logic, there's a lot of pragmatism in how I communicate. However, we're not wired for simply logic.
Yeah.
We're not wired for simply efficiency and all this other stuff. I heard a quote that like stuck with me. It's just like you want to be effective with processes. You want to be efficient with processes. You want to be effective with people. So you could block out time on your calendar for a 1 hour conversation, like, oh yeah, surely that's enough to talk about the ins and outs of this difficult thing. And that's efficiency at work. But effectiveness is like, okay, this is probably going to take longer. Like, this is not a computer. This person isn't a calendar. They want to know that they've been heard and essentially understood. And usually, sometimes that's not going to take an hour.
Right.
Another thing that I learned from that is that it's not even a matter of resolution. Sometimes it's communication is about just simply being understood. I learned that from our relationship.
Yeah, I be saying that a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's not even just like what you say, but I think in me trying to fix everything or like get to a system or whatever post a conversation or in the midst of a conversation, it can sometimes make you feel even less heard. Like, why are you trying to resolve this? I'm trying to share how I feel right now, and we can get to resolution later.
Yes. Literally, I got to talk about the story of Job.
Oh, yeah.
No, because it's like so true. And to me, it's just such a lesson in communication and relationship because Job is going through all this stuff, and Job in the Bible, story of Job in the Bible.
AKA Job.
In the Bible. He's going through all this stuff. And essentially like his children die, like his servants die, animals are gone, he loses his wealth, like just catastrophe happens to him like all at once. And essentially like in the beginning, his friends do such a great job. His friends see that he's going through all this stuff, and they decided to team up together, and we're just gonna go sit with Job. Like, we're just going to go comfort him. We're just going to go be in his presence, because sometimes communication is more than just your words. Like, it's the tone, it's how you feel. Like, and they did such a good job there. But then after a week of sitting in silence with Job, really empathizing and feeling, they're like, okay, now we really need to talk, Job, because they are essentially saying the reason that all this bad stuff has happened to you is because you have committed sin, you've done something wrong, just really accusing him of all these things. And Job, it gets frustrated with them, rightfully so. And he's essentially just saying like, man, you're making this hard season even harder because you guys keep accusing me. You're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm trying to tell you like I'm righteous, I'm this, but they keep blaming him or whatever. So I just think that's essentially like what you just said is like, when you're not listening to someone, like it actually is like hurtful and harmful, and like it does something to people. Like it tears you down in a way when you don't feel heard.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I like you bringing that up makes me think about all the ways that sometimes like it's in my old age that I'm like realizing like, again, like I thought I was phenomenal at communication. I think the reoccurring lesson, we can always grow in some way. I'll never forget, like I had a friend who went through like a really bad breakup. And I was given that bro encouragement. Come on, man, there's more fish in the sea. Come on, man, like get it together. And it really was a circumstance where it's just like, until I went through something similar, I was just like, bruh, this is what you were feeling? And that's what I told you? Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah.
Yeah. So when you
Ooh,
bring
that's
up
good. That's
when
good.
you talk about Job, when you talk about this idea that um like communicating and doing so with compassion
Hmm.
is like not a lot of people are good at it.
Yeah.
I think people are just like trying to like go from point A to point B, not knowing that like until you're in a similar situation, it's better. I think the best thing you can do, especially when you're communicating with people, just a great rule of thumb is be curious,
Hmm.
be genuinely curious. Because I
Mm.
have a whole conversation about genuine curiosity
Hmm.
too.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. You want to get into that?
Like genuine curiosity, what that
Yeah.
means, and like how you could do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, I again like my I'm reflecting on some of the lessons that I've learned recently. I think something that I would do very often is ask leading questions.
Mm.
Like ask a question and framing it in a way that it leads to some sort of conclusion that I've already come to in my mind. So
So,
it's not genuine.
so it's kind of like saying that really made you sad, didn't it?
Yeah, like stuff like that, like
Mm-hmm.
not open-ended questions where it
Mm-hmm.
gives people another thing I learned from Chris Voss, like the most valuable questions are how and what questions.
Mm.
Everything else like why is like yes or no questions.
Why did they say why is kind of
Why? I don't know cuz I think why can be elusive and I don't think you always have to think about.
mm.
I think if your parents if they if they were to ask you why did you do that, you could give like because I wanted to go hang out with my friend, like
Yeah,
whatever
true. Okay.
reason
Yeah, yeah,
comes. Like
yeah.
a better question is what did you think was gonna happen when you snuck out and stole the car?
Oh, true,
So
true.
you
That's
really
good.
gotta think and
Yeah,
process
yeah.
and
That's a
like
good
really
one.
like, or how did you think it would make us feel
Right,
when
right.
you did that?
That's good.
Like so how and
Mm-hmm.
what questions are top tier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So we talked about communication challenges. Um, what advice would you give to people who struggle with communication, especially given what you've talked about has been like your experience, like not being able to share difficult emotions. I personally, as your friend, husband, I think you're actually really good at sharing difficult things and
Mm,
doing so in a way that allows the conversation to expand and not contract.
right.
You know, so how do you feel like you navigate conversations, even with that experience of not being able to share pleasant, unless it's pleasant, being able to share. How do you
Mm,
feel like you navigate?
yeah. I feel like it's more so for me, like just reps
Mhm.
doing it. And I think I also am like, understand that, like, if I actually don't share this, this is kind of like fake intimacy that we're having. Like it's like this
Mm.
elephant in my room. Maybe not yours because
Mm.
maybe you don't know it. But
Yeah.
this elephant in my room that it keeps like a genuine fruitful relationship from prospering, I think.
Mm.
And I don't love confrontation, but one thing I will say is, like, if I really know I need to do it, I will. Like, I
Mhm.
typically will not run away from it. I will tremble every step of it.
Mhm.
And I will like have to talk myself through it the whole time. But I just see the fruit of it because it's
Mhm.
so much better to like share the hard things. And I think like I've seen it in a lot of areas of my life. What happens when you don't? Like what
Yeah.
happens when you don't actually share that? Like that feeling of like, this feels fake. Like this
Mm.
doesn't feel real, or you don't really know me, or like those things are like, it's not worth it to me. And that's why like it's just so nice with you. Like, I feel so secure in my relationship with you. I love sharing things with you. I'll share the hard, I'll share the ugly, I'll share the good with you. Because I feel secure and it's a beautiful relationship. And I don't think that I should only feel this way in a marriage. I think I should feel this way as a daughter. I should feel this way as a friend. I should feel this way in all areas of my life. But something that I'm able to do so well with you is have hard conversations. And that absolutely has strengthened our relationship. So it's the same in every other arena. I think like just reminding myself of the fruit that comes from these hard conversations and just genuinely reps. And also I think like understanding that like I have reminding myself that I have great friends. Like none of the people in my life are like not great people. Like they've done so much for me, all the things. So the same way I would have grace is like I try and remind myself, no, they will have grace for you too. Like that's your friend. You know, like this isn't just some random person. This is someone you have a relationship with. So in the same way, if they were to come out to like say something about me gracefully, you know, about me, I would be like, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing. I know that was hard. Like, but thank you. Like, that's how I would feel. So I have to have the faith and understanding that they would feel that same way about me. Or if they don't, like, why are we friends? You know, kind of like, or why are we in relationships? So,
no, that's so good. Cause I've, in a lot of conversations, especially ones that are difficult to have, I think it's always an invitation to go a little bit.
yeah.
It's like it doesn't negate from the difficulty or the weightiness of the conversation. However, I feel like this is an opportunity to get some depth in your relationship so that it's not shallow, it's not surface level.
Yeah.
And usually on the other side of a difficult conversation, you come away with a greater respect
Yeah.
at the very least, or
Yeah.
understanding, a more comprehensive someone else's viewpoints or feelings, even if you don't, regardless of whether or not you agree. It's just like, man, I have that awareness. That is really powerful.
Yeah.
I think you're really good at it.
Thank you. I've had to grow here, I guess.
Funny enough, I feel like I'm still growing, where I feel like I have to have all my thoughts and feelings together. Like I process, it takes me a while to process or even get comfortable with what I'm feeling and expressing it.
Like you need to like fully understand what you're going to say before you say it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like I don't think that's always helpful. I think there's value in pensive or thoughtful. However, like turned up to its extreme, you end up saying nothing because you're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, I'm playing 3D chess in my mind of like, okay, if I say this, they're gonna interpret it this way, and then I'm like, it's not helpful.
Yeah, it's not. It sounds like exhausting.
It is. It's terribly exhausting. How did you know?
So what do you do to help combat that? Or what advice would you give even if you're not fully there yet?
I think just taking the leap of of expressing difficult things. I think every time I've done it, it goes better than I expected, and people are always more receptive. I anticipate they'll be.
Yes.
And I think it's also important to know the types of relationships, um, and give grace and room for people's big emotions. I think, again, like looking at a conversation purely through logic is going to constrain what I in my at least in my experience is going to constrain what you feel like the conversation should look like. So if you leave room, if you give people that grace for their emotions, then you're going to be able to have a fuller conversation.
Yeah, definitely agreed. Good advice.
Yeah. So that's it. And then just being, I guess, like brave, vulnerable. I think in expressing myself, I shy away from attaching emotion to uh what I'm what I'm expressing. So like,
Mm,
but I think that's a valuable tool. Like when you say
mm,
like, when you said that, that made me sad. I didn't grow up like that. So it's just like, why
mm.
am I like, let's get feelings out of here. Let's stick to the talking points and like feelings, what does that matter? But that's I think I just got to get better at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's valid. And I think there's pros and cons to everything. Like there's the
Yeah.
pros of like having a more logical mindset, because
Mhm.
I feel like you're able to be like, okay, what's the meat of this? Let's
Mhm.
cut through all the fluff and let's get to the answer. And then but when you're emotional, I feel like you're able to understand the what's not being said. And like
Yeah.
there when those two things come together, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because I feel like I always say, like, I haven't said it in a while, but it still remains true. I feel like you're like the head and I'm like the heart. Like I
Mhm.
feel like you're logical and you think with like your head, and I'm more so I'm emotional and think with my heart. And I feel like it's challenging because if you're not, or if you're in any, if you are talking to someone or have a relationship with someone where you guys are opposites, it can be difficult, it can be challenging. It's like a rub. But like I said, when you learn how to communicate properly and communicate well, you're able to get something different, which is good from the conversation. It becomes a whole well-rounded conversation. Because
Yeah.
if I'm just talking to an emotional person, it's like, yes, oh my gosh, yes, yes. And it's just like, we didn't really come to a conclusion. But then you're like talking to a logical person, it's like, oh, we have a conclusion, but we totally missed out on emotional things. And that's kind of like a black and white example.
Yeah.
But like, I think it remains true that it's good to like talk with a different person and gain something from someone who communicates differently than you do. We talked a lot about communication, and we got to share where we landed on communication. So I'm going to ask you, Brian, where did you land on the topic of communication?
I will say that communication, I said this already, but I still think it's true. It's the bedrock of everything we do as humans, whether you're working, whether you're sharing the gospel. Like, man,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't even get into
Oh,
like
that's a whole
that's a
another
whole
thing.
bar in
Yeah.
and of itself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think God is one of the best communicators.
Yeah, he's a
If you
perfect
look at the
example.
Bible,
Mhm.
how it somebody may see some of the stuff in scripture as redundant,
Mhm.
but it reinforces, like, I think God is not afraid to repeat himself.
Yes.
And if we look to God and Jesus Christ as the prime examples of how to live, how to interact with other people, then you understand the importance of communication,
Mhm.
of reinforcing it, saying things multiple times if you have to,
Yeah.
doing so with like love and you know, um that's a
Yeah.
whole
Whole nother
that's a
podcast,
whole nother
honestly.
podcast. But I think that it is the bedrock of
Mhm.
how we interact as humans. And
Mhm.
so I think you can either do two things. You can kind of live in a bubble with how you communicate and simply grow up and uh rely on how you grew up to sort of guide how you communicate. Or I think this is the better alternative. You can continue to study it, improve,
Mhm.
and understand that everybody communicates
That's
differently.
good.
And when you do that, I think you'll go far in life.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Communication is like the you said bedrock
Yeah.
of everything. Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think where I land on communication is the same. Like, it is the foundation, and like how you learned how to communicate, like growing up or whatever, is going to shape how you communicate now. However, you can always grow in that area. You're not stuck where you are. And relationships with people, like marriage, friendships, sibling relationships, like those things can stretch and grow you and teach you how to communicate better. And
You just touched on something.
oh,
But
really?
yeah, like
Oh,
it's such an important aspect of growth, communicating with people who are different from you,
oh,
who
yeah.
don't share the same
Mm-hmm.
values as you,
Mm-hmm.
like being able to like listen. I think that's a underrated skill in
Mm-hmm.
general. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's so valuable.
Yes, yes, it is underrated because I think with communication too, like you feel it can get very emotional because you can
Mhm.
feel like if you're not agreeing with my point, you're not for me, or like you like
Yeah.
it can get like that. So yeah, but I think that it does something to you, like it strengthens your communication skills, and what do they say? To be clear is to be kind, and it's important. It's a way to express genuine concern and love for people through communicating well.
So, and that's a wrap. And this is where we landed on communication.
Yeah.